Hello and good afternoon to everyone. Today I will present my research with the title Gamified Interventions Towards Migrants' Perception Changing, about the topic of gamification applied to the field of migration and how gamified interventions can help to achieve more knowledge about this topic and improve migrant perceptions. Gamification consists in the use of game elements in non-gaming contexts, offering the possibility to compete and share successes in order to encourage users' participation, engagement, and enjoyment, while at the same time promoting pre-established behaviors. Already in the 80s, some companies, institutions, and organizations understood the potential of gaming, but it's with the advent of smartphones and mobile applications that gamified products accessible 24 hours per day have seen a big increase in use and potential. Because of a huge mass of non-gamers became familiar with the mechanism of video games, such as points, levels, and rankings, and rewards that represent the key gamified elements. In order to understand concretely in what gamification consists, it is useful to cite a famous example developed by the car company Nissan in 2011, which created a gamification app located inside the car's dashboard that allows drivers to monitor in real time how much fuel they are consuming and creates a score that is compared with other drivers in the same province, region and country, generating a ranking that establishes who has the best driving styles, and based on the ranking you receive rewards. This can represent an interesting technique of like how to stimulate eco-driving, but something similar has been created exploiting the mechanism of gamification by our government with the idea of cashback and super bonuses for the top of the standings in order to promote regular bank transfers. This is how motivating people to engage like in particularly targeted behaviors has led gamification to become a popular and effective technique in a wide variety of contexts. The main ones are represented by education and marketing of services. Gamification, we can say that in this sense, can represent like a new form of journalism that is closer and more direct, and can like improve knowledge about a topic or a central issue, as for example the immigration context. Thus, gamification can change the perception too often stigmatized and prejudiced about the topic of migration and the situation of migrants. But first of all, I need to like define and clarify with the term that with the term migrant, I'm referring to a somewhat like more specific category, namely stigmatized migrants. So people who are discriminated against, hindered, and limited in their lives because of their condition. It's thus important to clarify that there are differences and different definitions related to this topic and to the term migrant that is nowadays perceived and increasingly seen in a wrong and negative way, mostly because of like new media represents an impetus of negativity, and also what the professor was saying about the hate speech online, and also the ethnocentric frameworks that that media use to explain migrant situation. It's therefore important to outline and define some keywords related to this topic. So according to the Glossary of Migration by IOM 2019, a migrant person is defined a person who moves away from his or her place of usual residence, as you can see from my definition on my slide, whether within a country or across an international border, temporarily or permanently, and for a variety of reasons. But this definition comprehends a variety of people's categories. But in my argumentation, as I said before, I aim to explore the specific category of stigmatized migrants that includes asylum seekers and refugees. An asylum seeker is still like defined by the Glossary of Migration by IOM 2019, is a person who is seeking the refugee status and is someone whose claim has not been finally decided on by the country in which the claim is submitted. Not every asylum seeker will ultimately be recognized as a refugee, but every refugee was initially an asylum seeker. This is really important. And a refugee instead, based on the 1951 Convention of Geneva, is someone who has been forced to flee his or her country because of persecution, war, or violence. So a refugee has a well-founded, so this is really important, has a well-founded fear of persecution for reasons of race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. And being a refugee entitles the person of a number of rights, including the right to not be sent back to the country of origin, the principle, the famous principle of not refoulement, and should be treated and protected as such. This is the definition that is still like valid from UNHCR 2015. But to comprehend how it is applied gamification to the field of migration, the following examples addressed and deepened in my research will clarify the concept. Pluy and Fursick in 2011 and 18 developed 3 examples of games, so the Refugee Challenge, Against All Odds, and the Migrant Trail, trying to understand if news games are a better way to do journalism, so inform people about like a political issue through news content and mostly interactive storytelling. In fact, this game, as the Refugee Challenge developed by The Guardian in 2014, is an interactive game where the user can choose among a multitude of paths that lead to different outcomes of the narrative of the story. Even though the game has the same starting point, so a 28 years old Sunni widowed woman from Syria who is fleeing to protect her children from the ongoing war. Playing the game appear also some contextual information and text fragments with hyperlinks to external sources on the internet to provide like concrete information about like the real situation of migrants. So connected to the game, you also can inform yourself about how is the real situation in that specific areas. Against All Odds by UNHCR 2005 is a web-based game divided into 3 parts. Each one includes like some mini games. The first part is war and conflict, running for persecution, and regards what forces people to leave their home country and what like this departure cause to this unknown fate. And in the second part, Border Country, Can I Stay Here, that is the title, the player has to organize a life within an unfamiliar surrounding that is really difficult because you have to face difficulties and cultural differences, as for example, understand a new and a different language. The third part, last one, A New Life, Loss and Challenge, is focuses on experiencing prejudices and discrimination in events of daily life, such as being like accused of stealing unfairly. So throughout the whole game, the time limits exert, because there is a time limit that exerts like pressure on the players who can experience stress and the passing of the time because strongly emotionally engaged, and that is really key element for gamification. And the game aims to make the player feel what the character might be feeling. So it is really important for immediatization. The Migrant Trail, the third game, developed by Jagan Mechanic in 2013, is a game developed on a documentary about Mexicans illegally crossing the Sonora Desert, a really tough journey, in southern Arizona to migrate into the United States. In the game, the curiosity of this game is that in the game, the player can choose to be either a border patrol guards, so to might feel what also a border control guards can feel and experience, or one of the migrants. And also choosing the character, you can also choose between different personalities, emphasizing like the similarities to the user with the migrant, to make like an easier identification. And the main goal of this game is like to surviving through this tough journey through the Sonoran desert, managing health, stamina, strength, and money available. So it's really like really real. Katek et al. Analyzed another way of using gamification towards migrants' perception, because too little was done to build bridges and like connections between refugees and locals. Because as we have seen even with the games before, most of the games aiming at raising awareness of the like about migration context, putting the player in the position of refugee forced to flee, who encounters difficulties through the tough journey as before. But however, no one have created an application to help refugees and facilitating them into the integration process, the most important one, to feel like part of a group, of a social group, in this case, even to part of a country. So the meaning of these app are like these co-design games where users can form a network in which they interact, cooperate, challenge each other, and participate in the construction of the game itself. So intercultural communication and social connections represent the two pillars of successful integration, and that is where this type of game focuses its attention. In addition, agli et al. With the app Migrate, based on like a gamification approach, create and develop a series of games to improve users' knowledge about migration. Players like overall starting knowledge about migration was predominantly like erroneous. In fact, at the 10th game, the number of correct answers increased to almost 50%, showing how much the players learned while playing this app Migrate. And it came out even a central, a common like problem regarding migration, how much European players slightly overestimate real numbers of migration. So thanks to this app and to this game, they understood and learned a lot about migration, and also the numbers of migration. That is really important to understand the impact on us about this phenomenon. Lastly, the last game is Crossing Border, developed by Clun in 2019, that highlighted how much the topic of migration need to be included even in the school curriculum, and how it could be taught through this innovative and strategic way that represent gamification. So with crossing borders, the aim was to include migration-related topics into the school curriculum, in a way that like would engage students and spark their interest. That is really important. In fact, students who played this game considered game a good way to learn and begin to understand many migration-related concepts, term, and definition. Even teachers considered Crossing Borders a great educational game to propose in didactic settings, as we said before, like in educational environments, which enable to like teach about an important topic as migration in an innovative way and more engaging and with more participation of students. As a result, it was found that gamification applied to improve the perception of migrants and their condition can be an effective educational and productive intervention. It was found that gamified intervention can induce and aid empathic understanding by offering like an indirect gamified possibility to experience what a migrant may experience in their hindered and, like we can say, limited and discriminated life. This can be the basis for like future innovation, more in-depth, large-scale, and maybe targeted research with greater statistical evidence, because it's a new topic. This of gamification, there is not so much statistical evidence, but maybe isolating and identifying dimension like ethnocentrism, latent and manifest prejudice, social connectedness, self-esteem, anxiety, and social responsibility. We can like understand these dimension as the dimension that can lead to migrants' stigma and discrimination. This is the reflection with which I conclude. Then I have the bibliography, and I wanted to thank you for your attention with this picture of me working in a refugee campus, because actually I'm in Greece doing a project with an NGO, and it's amazing and really related to what I studied in my thesis. Thank you very much.